Hello and welcome to SME TV News and Views. This is a special segment where we have our expert guests come on and share some views and news that they might have. I'd like to welcome Jane Jackson, career coach and a great friend. How are you, Jane?
I'm very well. I'm self-isolating. I'm at home where
and successfully
Yes, well, I don't actually mind self-isolating, Angela, because I do a lot of my work remotely online as well, and I use Zoom all the time. So I think video conferencing is a very good thing.
Can you tell us briefly, what is a career coach, Jane?
Okay, career coach, what I do is I specialize in career transition and career management coaching. And so I help predominantly senior executives through the emotional roller coaster of career change. If someone has been affected by a redundancy, or if they've been stood down, as many people are at the moment during this coronavirus outbreak, then I'm able to coach them to help to rebuild their self-confidence, get some clarity about what they could do next in their careers, and then help to repackage them in a way and rebrand them so that they have powerful marketing materials so that they can go out to market, learn how to network, work with recruiters, and for some people who perhaps are lucky enough to stay in their roles, how they can still continue to progress in their roles as well. Encompassing career coaching, it's all about communication in the workplace, how you can progress, being a good leader. So it's a combination of career coaching, transition coaching, and leadership coaching as well.
So right now we're facing a global pandemic, and every day we're finding out how many more thousands of people are losing their jobs, and the millions that are expected in particular in Australia. So if you are any one of those number of people, you've woken up and suddenly discovered no more job. What's the normal feelings there? What do people generally experience when the rug is pulled out from under them?
Because of the coronavirus outbreak at the moment, people are feeling anxious anyway, and they're anticipating that this may happen. So you do have a little bit of a heads up. However, when the axe actually falls, maybe that's not a good turn of phrase, but when it actually happens and you've been stood down or you've been told that the role is no longer required, people feel fear and denial and anxiety, and some people are angry, and there's a whole host of emotions that go through you, because it's all part of the grief curve. When something happens to you that's out of your control, then that's when it's hard to believe this can't possibly be happening to me. And whether it's a redundancy during just normal times, that's also very emotional. But now, because we've got COVID-19, people are worried about their health. They can see that businesses are shutting down really across the board. The airline industry, hospitality industry are affected so badly. Many businesses have already closed. Many people have been stood down. They don't know when they'll be going back to work. And indeed, when they go back to work, will that business still be in business? So there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, and concern about how do I put food on the table for my kids? How do I pay the mortgage? People have a lot of expenses that need to be met.
This is an incredibly unusual time, because even when we've had major financial crisis in the world, including the Great War or the Depression, there wasn't the health anxiety that everybody had, except for the Great Spanish Flu, but then we didn't have as much international travel to coincide there. So are you finding that people are now generally at that loss as to, they know why they've lost their job because their business can't support them, but it was nothing to do with their skills, it was nothing to do with their work performance, and yet they're unemployed. Now, there's little hope of them getting re-employed.
Well, it really depends on what industry you're in and what type of roles you're in. You can be re-employed, probably in something completely different. So if you're willing to identify what your transferable skills are and what you're willing to do, you can still earn money. One of the good things is that the government is really stepping in, and they're putting together this huge package to assist business owners. And now there is obviously there's the job seeker allowance, but the job keeper allowance is helping so much. And they're rolling it out to so many employees. And with that being $1,500 a fortnight, at least you're able to buy some groceries and continue on. It might be a lot less than what your normal salary is, but there is a continuance. And I think everybody knows that the government wants to support you as individuals and businesses to stay in business, because we need this to happen for the economy to turn around once we've won the war. I tend to think of it as the coronavirus war.
It is a war, and not one that many governments are winning at the moment. With prolonged isolation being in front of us, this road of everyone being in a lockdown or a shutdown, how best can people manage this big career transition, right? So is it time to get your resume out and say, well, even though I've been in marketing all my life, maybe I'll have to do something else? Is that a worthwhile thing to do now?
Oh, definitely. What I would recommend, first of all, is your mental health is very important, because this is a shock for people. And even in the best of times, it does knock your self-confidence greatly, and you feel a great deal of stress. So number one is self-care is so important, and you need to identify exactly how you're feeling and manage stress well first, because you cannot market yourself when you're feeling stressed, because when you're stressed, you are not confident, and then you don't put your best foot forward as well. And you make sometimes you'll make the wrong decisions. So I would say, if you have been affected, take a step back, breathe, have a think about what is really important to you. Continue to, well, eat as well as you can, maintain a balanced diet, go and exercise. We're allowed to go outside, we're allowed to exercise. I know you can't congregate in great groups, but everyone can go for a walk. This is what I'm doing. Every morning I go out there for half an hour and I power walk, and it clears my head and I feel better about it. So let's not be couch potatoes and stay watching Netflix, because there's a lot of stuff that we can do to help ourselves as well. So make sure you take care of yourself.
There goes the rest of
my day. Yes, but you need to take care of yourself. Once you do that, then, as I say, reassess. What have you got? What's important to you? What are your skills? What's your knowledge? What's transferable? What's not transferable? What are you really good at? How competent are you with certain skill sets, and how much do you enjoy using those skills as well? And then you need to do some research as to what else could I do? What am I willing to do? And then, of course, working on your resume is a good thing. Say if you think, no, I'll actually be all right for a while, but I may need to look for a job later. Now's the time to really brush up on your resume. Sit down and think about, over the past year, what are the tangible accomplishments that you have achieved? What have you done that has perhaps saved the organization money, reduced downtime, streamlined processes, improved employee engagement? Well, what have you actually done that's made a difference in the organization? And write it down and turn it into a bullet point that will be powerful with a tangible result in your resume, because that's going to make you stand out. It'll show that you're someone who gets stuff done. That's the most important thing. And also it determines what your attitude is. We want people
considering
with positive...
what you've just been talking about, there are a lot of people who have themselves out of work, and in fact they may not be able to go back to that industry or that particular company because the financial situation may prevent that. But what you're saying is that you need to keep that in mind, see what other skills you have, because you may be in for a big career change.
Yeah, absolutely. And also be open to that as well, because these are forces beyond our control. It's not anybody's fault. We cannot blame a global pandemic on our employers or the government. This is, I mean, everyone's doing the best that they can. And so now I believe this is a period of reinvention. I've had to reinvent some aspects of my own business as well. But because we're all working from home, we have to get up to speed on technology. Things like LinkedIn are excellent to be on, because right now LinkedIn's giving us LinkedIn Learning so many courses for free. As long as you've got an internet connection, you can brush up on your skills. You can learn how to work remotely. You can use, as we're doing now, I mean, I would have loved to have been in your studio, Angela, but self-isolation, we're doing this via Zoom. So learn how to use Zoom effectively, or go to webinar or Skype or any of the software, the platforms that you can use for video conferencing, because this is going to be our link to the rest of the world. The opportunity is that now that everybody is working remotely, we can work globally. So it doesn't matter where you're working, you can still apply for remote roles anywhere in the world. So that's where I see a great opportunity that perhaps before you wouldn't have even looked at.
Because we weren't open to the fact that that there is a big world out there for us to reach out to. Now we're being forced to consider that because of the impact on some of the other countries and their remote workers having been ill, and so many thousands. We're very lucky here with our isolation geographically, as well as what we're being forced into. So these kind of roles now that we could be looking at may be far outside the mainstream of what we originally considered. Now we're finding ourselves rethinking our careers, redoing our resume, and guess what, working in another country. And that will be the norm, because we've already been down this road of look what happens.
That's right. You know, there's something that I would recommend that people have a look at. And say if you hop onto LinkedIn and you're looking in the job seekers section of it, instead of saying, you know, Sydney or Australia or Singapore or wherever, there's a drop down that you could put remote. And if you put remote, then it pulls up all of the remote jobs as well. So you can work from home. So this is a potential opportunity for you to explore.
And new employers right around the world might also be considering that as their resilience strategy, to have staff not in their own country, because look what can happen. So it may very well now be even more widely accepted, where we used to laugh at the call centres that were located overseas. Now it's going to be, well, look what happens. You know, we have to have a backup plan.
Yeah, that's right. And people are going to become more tech savvy. We're going to be really relying on technology more and more. So if you're able to brush up on those, you know, IT technology skills, it's going to benefit you for sure. I mean, if there's downtime, now's the time to upgrade your skills and learn a new way of doing things, because I firmly believe that when we come out on the other side, that businesses are now realizing that flexibility is possible. Productivity and flexibility can go together hand in hand, and it may suit many people as well. Of course, there are some roles that have to be face to face. You know, if a photographer is taking photos somewhere, they have to be at that place in order to take the photos, right? If I have to meet you face to face to do something, then, you know, obviously we can't do it remotely. But luckily, with what we do, and, you know, with all the podcasting and things like that, that's remote. It works very well too.
Yes, as long as you have a stable internet connection, and we're all starting to see where the holes are in that infrastructure, unfortunately.
Yes.
So what are you focusing on in your business? What are you focusing on now?
I'm in major helping mode at the moment. So I've been busy creating programs to help individuals. I mean, I just released yesterday my new personal branding for career success online program. It's a masterclass, which is free. And so people can take that, because, you know, if they start to think about their brands, because during this downtime, if you don't manage your brand effectively, people will forget you. And so, you know, now is the time to really think about who are you, what can you do, what value do you add to organizations, and then how can you position yourself online, of course. And the best platform to do that is our professional networking site, LinkedIn, because that's where 93% of recruiters and hiring managers look for people when they're hiring. So if you can brand yourself well, and let your profile be aspirational so that people know your potential as well, it's going to put you in a much stronger position. Get active as well, so that you do turn up in updates, because now a lot of people are consuming content, which is great because you're educating yourself, but start to think about how you can be a thought leader and create content, because then people will know what you represent. They know you've got an opinion. You can position yourself as a leader in your field if you are smart about it.
It's interesting times that kind of caught us unawares. Certainly we didn't anticipate in Australia what we would be facing. I'm not sure why we didn't, Jane, because it affected China so deeply that perhaps we should have been a little bit more aware.
Yeah.
When we are looking, though, at new careers and new technologies, and the fact that even our own manufacturing industries here in Australia are adapting, they're pivoting, because our Premier in New South Wales has gone out and said, you know, if you manufacture something, consider changing it to products that we need right now and we will help you. It feels very wartime, this call out of change. So why not your career changing at the same time? Are we going to go a little bit backwards in order to go forwards?
I think what's happening is we're having a bit of a, I believe it's a global mind shift of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, how we're going to position ourselves moving forward. I think the sense of entitlement is going. You know, no one should be feeling a sense of entitlement now. It's what value do you add to an organization? What can you do? And I really feel the community spirit is coming together so strongly. Everyone wants to help each other. Just last night, I do these weekly, I used to do them monthly, but during coronavirus days, I'm doing them weekly free Zoom meetings where anyone who just wants to talk can, I'm a coach, so talk to me. And so we had 12 people on the call yesterday, and they just wanted to talk about how they're feeling, what's going on. One gentleman was in Germany, a lady was in the UK. I had quite a number from Australia as well. And then how they're feeling, what's happening in their careers, have they lost their jobs, what are they looking for next? And I can do my tiny little bit to give them the self-confidence and a few ideas as to what they can do to pivot, because a lot of people are going to have to pivot. A lot of businesses need to pivot. Dyson, you know, manufactures vacuum cleaners. Now they're making ventilators. I mean, that's fantastic. And Ford and General Motors, same thing, making ventilators.
Well, that's a good example, because one of the, I think it's Medtronics, one of the big medical device companies, have released the design on their respirators for other companies to manufacture. So they're sharing their plant. Never would have happened at any other time in our lives.
Yeah, well, I think people realize we're in this together globally, because we're fighting this beast that, you know, we're learning about it every day. And, you know, we're relying on the scientists and the medical, you know, professionals to guide us on what we need to do. Then the government's getting the guidance from the scientists and the medical professionals as well. And they're reacting quickly, which is good. But I think sometimes you need to act rather than react. But luckily, we are taking action here in Australia. And certainly it seems as though it might be starting to work. Yesterday, I actually was talking on a LinkedIn Live with a gentleman in Singapore who's a branding specialist, and I wanted to talk to him because Singapore is doing such a great job of containing it. And I guess because it's an island nation and the people are willing to listen to the government as well. So I hope here in Australia, we're a continent in itself, we are an island. If we are smart about it, if people practice the self-isolation and stay well, then we can rebuild once this is over.
That's right. And it will be over. And we are having to radically change the way we do business, the way we are at home, our interactions socially. Now, Jane, an interesting part I want to talk about is, let's say you are still employed, you still have a career, and you're working remotely as teams. Are people going to have to change their behaviours in the way that they do engage, because it's now all online? So, you know, for instance, you and I, we could be in a manager position here. It's a team meeting. We're having a conversation on Zoom. I'm trying to explain to you what I need to get done today or tomorrow. I don't really know what you're doing at home. I don't know if you're putting in a full work day, or if you're in your pajamas on the couch watching Netflix and eating ice cream. are we all going to have to change our existing work behaviour as well?
I think so. I mean, here's where leadership has to step in. So if you're the manager and you're leading a team, if the team respect you and you are a collaborative, democratic leader who listens, then your team will respond positively. I was just reading a fantastic article. Dan Price, who's the CEO of a company called Gravity, just emotional intelligence at the greatest heights. Rather than cutting 20% of his workforce, he spent 40 hours, he and one of his senior leaders spent 40 hours talking to every single one of their employees to ask them, how can we make this work? How can we pull together? And so everybody has agreed. They came up with it. It's not the CEO saying, this is what's going to happen. You're all getting a cut in salary. They all said, we want to stay in business, so we still have our jobs. So we will take, they agreed, they decided themselves to take the pay cuts so that the business can continue. Now, that's democratic leadership, asking your people what works for you, what's not working for you, how can I lead you and be more effective as well, and really listen to your employees. And if you're leading, one particular team in a particular department, ask them, what do they need? How can you help them? Because honestly, if people have integrity and they value you as a leader, they will listen as well. Whereas if you're just barking orders, well, no one likes to listen to orders being barked at them. But if it's a team effort, and as I say, we're in it together, then in order to be able to keep their jobs, the business needs to stay ticking over too.
But when we come out of the other side.
Yes, and now remotely we can lead well by communicating well. So for leaders who aren't used to using technology, they have to make sure that they still project an air of professionalism too. So I would suggest, when you're working from home, don't slouch around in your tracky dacks all the time. Make sure that you look professional as well. And, the thing with video conferencing, you can be perfectly professional from waist upwards. Okay, goodness knows what's happening waist downwards.
Right, but from here up.
Project the professionalism that you can, so that people know that you're in a position of authority and you're leader-like. And as an employee, show that you are willing to work by dressing appropriately too. Some people are perfectly fine working casually or dressing casually, but it just depends on what makes you feel best. How do you work best? And if you're going to be presenting or listening or working online at meetings, make sure that you know what to do with regard to the webcam as well. Lift your webcam up, or even if you're using your phone as a webcam, lift it up to eye level so that you're looking, like right now I'm looking into my webcam and I'm looking into, it looks like I'm looking straight at you, so it makes a difference. A few months ago, I interviewed the body language guru, Alan Pease, on my podcast. And he was saying, honestly, Jane, when you're on a webcam and you're talking like this, people are watching your face. They're reading your expressions. And so be very aware of your body language, because people notice even more when you're on a webcam, because they're not distracted. Unless you've got a really busy background. But if they're looking at your face, your eye contact, your smile, whether you're frowning or whether you've got a wry smile or not, they'll notice that. So think of the body language that you're projecting, as well as the words that are coming out of your mouth.
It's interesting because that's one of the most important factors to bear in mind if we are going to connect and have any of that authentic, genuine parts of us coming through. Because as a leader, you want work or the jobs to keep going, or the projects. And as people, as part of a team, you want to feel valued, you want to feel connected, you want to be motivated to work, given all that's going on around you. So it really is a two-way street, even more now than it's ever been.
That's right. And regular catch-ups with your team are very important. Don't leave them for a week with no word. even if it's just a 5-minute, hey, how you going? Let's just hop on a quick Zoom call. Is everything all right? They'll appreciate that, because, you know, I mean, really demonstrate effective leadership by staying in touch with your team members. Don't hide. Even if you're not very comfortable in front of technology, just for someone to see your face, it makes such a difference. And I much prefer it to a phone call, because I can see you.
Yes, you can't say, yeah, I'm breaking up. You're going into a tunnel now. I'm breaking up. There's not much to hide. There's not much to hide. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jane. We appreciate it. That's Jane Jackson, career coach. You've been watching SME TV. This is News and Views. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.